You think you'll notice when the world starts leaking. You won't. It doesn't pour in. It wicks through. It shows up as a damp ring in the ceiling that never dries, a fluorescent hum that tunes a half step higher after midnight, a hallway that feels one door longer when you're carrying groceries. I'm recording this because whatever is on the other side has learned my schedule. And because if you live in a building with buzzing lights and a carpet that always smells faintly wet, you need to hear me before it finds you. My place is a cut-up one-bedroom in a 1960s corridor complex, the kind built like a motel and then sealed into a maze. The walls have 5 coats of landlord white. The floor has a runner down the middle that never quite dries after they steam it. The elevator works when it wants. The bulbs in the stairwell don't so much flicker as blink their own language. I moved in for the cheap rent and the long lease. 2 weeks later, the stain appeared in the corner over my closet, round as a coin and yellow like old paper. I reported it. Management slid a notice under my door that said maintenance will address moisture intrusion during business hours. Thank you for your patience. They never came, but the circle kept growing until it looked like a map of a country I couldn't find on any atlas. Somewhere around the time it sprouted a little peninsula. The hum in the hall drifted up from a soft buzz to a sound that lives behind your teeth. Nothing dramatic at first. Doors that used to thunk started closing like they had carpet behind them. The exit sign at the west end bled a little light into the drywall, a pink bruise that moved an inch every night. On Tuesday, my key turned twice before the bolt slid and the knob was suddenly cold, like I'd been unlocking a door that didn't like being a door. On Wednesday, my phone camera bent straight lines into bows any time I pointed it at the ceiling stain. Thursday, my upstairs neighbor dragged furniture for 6 hours without once walking to the kitchen or bathroom. I tapped the broom on the plaster. The ceiling tapped back 3 beats late, as if it needed to think about the rhythm first. I started testing things because pretending I didn't notice was worse. I paced the hallway, counting steps between the fire door and the laundry, 34. I did it again after midnight, 41. I chalked a mark at my door at shoulder height. In the morning, the mark was still there, only the baseboard seam below it had scooted right by a thumb's width. And if you don't think seams move, you haven't watched paint split where it used to meet. I dropped a penny on the carpet where the runner darkens near the exit. It sank a millimeter like the floor was a soft fruit. When I came back 5 minutes later, the penny was gone and the spot smelled like lemon cleaner and rain. Friday at 2:17 a.m., the intercom clicked and hissed. We don't have a concierge. Management posts their hours next to a dead green LED. The speaker still chose that hour to clear its throat, and a voice that thought it was a voice said, in a tone that missed the center of each vowel by a fraction, water shutoff for remediation will occur at 2:30 a.m. Please do not open service doors without staff present. It said my apartment number like a question, then said my name with too much care, as if reading it slowly off a clipboard. I didn't answer. I texted my neighbor across the hall, Lila, to ask if she'd heard. She wrote back immediately, my cat is under the bed, but the bed feels longer. I stepped into the hall. The lights throbbed in pairs. The air smelled like wet carpet and photocopier toner. At the far end, the red exit was mirrored backward, as if I were seeing it through a pane of glass. I walked that way and the angle never changed. When I turned around, the elevator had a new button, not a floor number, just a hollow triangle where an L should be. I pressed it. It didn't move. The ceiling stain in my bedroom bloomed quietly like mold seen through a time-lapse. When I stood under it with my hand out, the drip I expected never fell. The plaster stretched down in a film so thin I could see the cotton threads in the tape beneath. Shadows moved behind it like hands behind a shower curtain. Saturday evening, someone slid a paper under my door that wasn't management stock. It was plain white, ink a little too dark, words too crisp. Tenants in units 401 to 420. During ongoing remediation, please follow these procedures. Keep your eyes on the floor while in shared corridors. Do not stop at unnumbered doors. Do not count tiles by 4s. If you hear a printer, you are not in your home hallway. If you find yellow paper taped at eye level with arrows, do not follow them. If you must leave your apartment after 2 a.m., tie a line to your anchor point and do not let it pay out of sight. Signed, Building Services. The signature was a latex stamp that bled at the edges like old ink, and the S of Services had been typed over a faint H, as if whoever had made this forgot which department they were pretending to be. 2:06 a.m., Lila knocked. She never knocks. She texts. Her face through the peephole looked stretched by the fisheye in a way that didn't make sense with where she was standing. When I opened the door, she didn't step in. She kept her toes exactly on the seam between my mat and the hall carpet and whispered that her cat, Fig, had crawled into the air return and meowed like a cheap speaker, from farther away than events should go. She swore her apartment number now read 404 on both sides of the door jamb. She showed me a photo on her phone and the picture was normal, which somehow was worse. Then the intercom asked us, together, to please proceed to the service corridor for temporary relocation, and used the word please 3 times in a row like it was trying the key in different locks. I got my mag light, a clothesline from the closet, and a roll of duct tape. I tied the line to the radiator and wrapped it twice, because if the paper was a joke, it was a specific one. The utility closet at the end of the hall had been painted shut for months. Tonight, the knob turned. The door opened into a room that should have been concrete and pipes, and instead had a wall of faded yellow wallpaper printed with a floral pattern that repeated just a hair wrong. The air was 10 degrees warmer and so damp my forearm hair stood up. A long corridor ran past, lit by humming fixtures the same color as old milk. The carpet felt damp even from the doorway. It smelled like an office at 3 a.m. on a Sunday. Paper, toner, the ghost of coffee. Somewhere inside, a laser printer woke and cycled a tray. Somewhere else, a stapler clicked twice, then once more, then waited. I taped the line to the jamb at chest height and looked at Lila. She had Fig's collar in her hand and her eyes were bright like a cat's in low light. If you hear my name, don't answer, I said. If the lights flicker 3 times, step out of the center and touch a wall. If your phone says you have a new Wi-Fi network called Level Airplane Mode, battery out if you can. If the wallpaper pattern repeats the same stain 4 times, close your eyes and turn your head until it doesn't. I don't know how I knew these rules. I felt them the way you feel heat from an oven before you open it. She nodded and wrapped her fingers around the line like it was a leash and I was the dog. I stepped through. The hum met me like pressure. The floor gave a millimeter, then held. The hallway behind me narrowed without moving. From the ceiling, a voice like my own with my sore throat rasp whispered my apartment number and asked if I could please return to my unit for safety. Far down the corridor, a green exit sign swung slowly on a chain that didn't exist. The line at my waist tugged once, gently, not from Lila, but as if the hallway had breathed in. I put my hand on the wall and it was warmer than my skin. I kept my palm there until my pulse slowed. The wall had a give to it like drywall gone to sponge. Far down, the hum grinned a half step sharper and a light buzzed itself into a rhythm I refused to learn. Behind me the line rubbed once against the jamb, a soft warning from Lila's side. I said her name in my head, not out loud, and took 5 steps with my shoulders skimming the floral print. The pattern stuttered every few feet. 1 flower darker, 1 repeat off-center, then again. Someone had hung this on purpose. Someone had measured wrong. On the 4th misprint, I looked away so I wouldn't count it. The carpet whispered under my boots, damp without being wet, holding footprints that softened and then swallowed. So many little offices with no doors opened off the corridor, each the size of a walk-in closet, each with a chair turned a few degrees toward the wall. The smell of toner thickened and the printer ahead shook itself fully awake. It rattled a page into a tray and spit paper like a lizard spitting skin. I edged past a T-junction where arrows of yellow paper were taped at eye level, big cheerful chevrons pointing right. Their edges curled from humidity. Each one had a faint wet ring where tape had soaked through, and a brown fingerprint sunk in the pulp like a fossil. I kept my eyes down and let the arrows be background noise. In the carpet pile, a trail of little ovals ran tight to the wall, too small for a sneaker, too wide for a mouse. Fig had small paws but not that small. Something like to track the baseboard where the wallpaper lifted. The line at my waist tugged again, a gentle caution. I glanced back and the service door was where it should be, only the jamb was an inch narrower, and my tape knot sat a hair lower, as if the wall had taken a long breath. The rope felt slick. When I pinched it, my fingers came away faintly yellowed, like the dye had bled. I wiped my hand on my jeans and forced a rule into words before my fear could claim it. Do not follow arrows. Do not let new color tell you new truth. Keep one hand on something you chose. The printer clicked and then sang 5 bright beeps. The same cheerful tone a copier makes when it needs paper. I counted primes under my breath, ugly numbers like broken steps. 2, 3, 5, 7, 11. The beeps lost their place. The copy room had no door. It had 2 printers, a fax nobody asked for, and a table with a stapler that clicked twice, then rested like it was catching its breath. On the console, a stack of work orders had already collated themselves. Moisture intrusion. Remediate Unit 404. Beneath, another with my number. Beneath that, Lila's. The letters were a little too perfect, as if each had been placed. My phone, even in airplane mode, trembled in my pocket. The network list had spawned a ghost when I checked earlier. It did it again now. Level 0 appeared and scrolled. I shut the screen. The line drew tight and went slack twice in a signal we'd used as kids to say I'm here. I whispered I know into my teeth and clicked my tongue twice for Lila to feel through the line. From the hallway to my left came a short skitter and the metallic tick of a ring against baseboard. Fig's collar never came off without a fight. The voice tried a new trick then. It didn't use the intercom. It used the ceiling itself. My apartment number fell down like dust. And then please in the exact tone my landlord uses on rent notices. The second please had my mother's consonants wrapped over it. The third my own. I pulled my light and cut a pattern across the walls. Not steady, never even, painting with broken rhythm. I found a return grill half a foot from the floor with 4 screws sunk in gummy paint. Behind the mesh, dark and a smell like hot carpet. A little bell trilled deep inside, toy small. I used a coin to turn one screw, then the next. The hum rose to meet the metal as if the building were putting its ear to the door. A long hair snagged my knuckle. It was too fine for a human and too coarse for a cat, something in between, something that had learned what hair should be from a picture. When the grill came off, air breathed out against my face like the sigh a stairwell gives. Fig meowed. Tinny, too far. The duct felt wrong under my hand. Fabric slick like an old theater curtain. And the edges of the opening had been cut by a blade that lost interest partway through. I took the paracord from my pocket and looped it through the grill. I made a harness I could throw and cinch. The line on my waist shifted with 3 light tugs. Lila's code for hurry. I breathed once, then long, and slid my arm into the duct up to the elbow. The hum sang a thin thread through my bones. Fig's bell rang twice and then once more, wrong cadence. I pulled back, shifted to prime counting again, and whistled a single note that wasn't any I'd ever used. Silence held. The bell answered a half step off. I tossed the loop. Something slid against the paracord and tightened the harness all by itself. A weight jerked. I braced and pulled. The corridor leaned with the effort. The wall warm under my shoulder like a sleeping thing. The line at my waist went taut enough to burn. I hauled again and a small shape spilled out in a slick of air and dust. Fig, collar on, pupils full, claws sunk in the loop until the skin between her toes showed. She didn't look at me. She looked past me at a point in the wallpaper where the floral print blurred and bulged. The bulge had a heartbeat. I scooped the cat under my arm and turned for the door. The corridor lengthened. The service room was 50 steps away. Then 80. Lights winked, 3, pause, 3, pretending at a rhythm I wouldn't learn. I broke mine first. I flashed the mag light like a drunk metronome. I stepped 2 long, 1 short, 1 back, 5 forward. I dragged my boot sideways to score an X in the carpet nap every 3rd step so I could see if the floor tried to eat my tracks. The hum bristled. The yellow dye on the line crept an inch. I shouted no without a voice, the way you say it to a dog in your mind when it's about to bolt. The tug on my waist steadied. Lila pulled. I answered by pulling back. The intercom found us then with its polite mouth. Tenants in units 401 through 420. Please proceed to temporary accommodations in the service corridor. Please leave pets and plants for later retrieval. Please do not be alarmed by changes to hallway length. It said changes like changing a tire. The bulge in the wall dimpled as if a finger pressed from the other side, and something like a staple slid out and kissed the carpet. Fig hissed without a sound. I fixed my eyes on the tape, not at the jam, and cut across a row of unnumbered doors without reading any of them, because if you read them the words might climb into your head and start rearranging labels. The last 10 feet skidded under me like a treadmill. We fell through the service door into cool air, and the buzz dropped a full note like a sigh. Lila braced her feet and hauled me the rest of the way. We slammed the door and leaned on it until it felt like a door again. The tape knot sat dry under my hand. The line looked like our line, white with a blue tracer, not jaundiced with someone else's idea of the hallway. Fig shook once, hard, and crawled into Lila's hoodie like a crab. We didn't speak until the light stopped arguing with itself. We wrote new rules that night and slid them under every door with no numbers shaved off. If your hallway gains a button or a letter, don't press it. If yellow paper points away, look down and keep a hand on something you brought. Do not count tiles by 4s. Do not believe intercoms after 2. Tie off before opening any service door and do not let the knot out of sight. If the wallpaper repeats a stain 4 times, shut your eyes and turn your head. Clean your boots. Keep names in your mouth. When the hum climbs sharp, break whatever rhythm it gives you. If you have to leave, leave in pairs, and answer the word please with the word no you don't say. The stain above my closet still grows. Sometimes late the film breathes. If your building hums a half step too high after midnight, listen and do not open when it asks nicely. The leak won't pour. It will wick. Don't be the towel.